Is this really the end? Because I don't want it to be. Sum 41 have been on a roll lately with their album releases, but before, I think it was at the beginning of this year, either toward the end of last year, they released the lead single to this new album, Heaven and Hell, called Landmines, and announced that this was going to be the band's final album, as afterwards that would be it. Now, I don't think they officially call it quits until like November when the tour ends, but this is the last release from the band, their 8th and final album, and it's a double album. You got the Heaven side, which is a return to their old pop-punk sound that everybody knew and grew to love them for, and then you got the Hell side, which kind of continues on the experimentation path they've been going with a more metal-type sound mixed in with it. And they're each 10 tracks, so you get 20 tracks here, just under an hour. Kind of surprising for an album that features that many songs to be under an hour, but I think one of the best things about it is that it just flows by real quickly. None of these songs feel long and over bloated, they feel just right, and it is a quick listen despite being 55 minutes. I'm going to review each of the sides by themselves and then give you my overall rating for the album at the end. So let's just start off with the first side, which is the Heaven side, and I gotta say, there was nothing I disliked. I mean, I guess the tracks that I was kind of iffy on were Time Won't Wait and Dopamine, but Time Won't Wait to me, I don't know, I think it gets saved by the chorus a lot more because I just don't like the Machine Gun Kelly pop-punk aesthetic it goes for, but by the time it gets to the chorus you're like, oh, okay, now it's kind of, you know, ditching that and going to something more cooler. And Dopamine's fine for the most part, but I feel like when you look at how Heaven is, that side definitely doesn't, you know, live up to what the others have. And then the other 8 tracks on here are my absolute favorite. Waiting on a Twist of Fate was actually one of the 3 singles they released for this record. I'm surprised too, with an album of that many songs. I was expecting them to just release a bunch of singles, but they released 3, and this was one of them, along with the follow-up to this, or not the follow-up, but the song that follows track 1, which is track 2, that being Landmines, which was the first single from this thing and is the biggest song, and again, it just encapsulates everything we like about Sum 41, kind of having that mellow beginning but slowly going back into the fun pop-punk side of the band. Then we have I Can't Wait, Future Primitive, Not Quite Myself, Bad Mistake, Johnny Libertine, and Radio Silence, which finishes side 1 off. They're all great songs that just kind of go back for the basics to the band and just keep you falling in love or make you remember why you fell in love with this band in the first place. They still know how to write pop-punk bangers even after all these years. Like, none of these feel cringy. Like, I feel like when bands who were once pop-punk go back to pop-punk later in their career, it gets cringy and they just kind of stick with, like, the simplistic formula of today's pop-punk. Like, you know, how Avril Lavigne did, where she came back to pop-punk, but, oh lord, she kind of took the MGK direction. It's like, no, Avril, you were much better before. Why all of a sudden are you stooping to the level of those, you know, kind of pop-punk artists? But with Sum 41, they've been in the game a long time, and you know that when they make songs, they're going to, you know, have meaning to them and really make you feel something. So overall, I think the Heaven side of the album gets a 4 out of 5. Outside of the 2 okay tracks, which, you know, I don't hate, I like the songs, but, you know, I feel like it would have been a perfect 5 out of 5 if those songs were, I don't want to say better, but if they had some parts that weren't necessarily included in there. But now we get to side 2, the Hell side. The reason that I have been so into Sum 41 more than I had been, because I think I clocked out in 2007 for a while, and it wasn't until 2016 when they brought me back in, because they started experimenting with this more metal side and alt-rock side that they had kind of touched before but never fully, and this is my favorite side of the album. I mean, I gotta tell you right now, I loved everything on here. Like, there was not a least favorite track, there was not a track I thought was okay. Everything on this side, all 10 tracks, were just so well crafted together, everything flowed well, and I found myself enjoying every single moment of it. It's just like, man, Rise Up, which was the first single from this side that we heard, and the only single from this side that we heard, is amazing. Stranger in These Times, also a good one. I Don't Need Anyone, Over the Edge, House of Liars, You Wanted War. And then, of all things, they have a cover of the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black on here, which I thought I was going to be very iffy on. I mean, I know in the past Sum 41 have done covers and they've done a really good job. I would definitely tell you to look up their Metallica melody that they did on, I believe it was BBC Radio, I think, one year, where they did a melody of Metallica songs. It was awesome. It was fantastic. But they make this work somehow. They turn kind of like a old, almost 60s kind of version of what you would think is a punk rock song into, you know, a kind of more metal-leaning alt-rock tune in itself, and they do a great job with it. A surprise that I wasn't expecting. It's All Me is the second to last track on the album, and then How the End Begins finishes it all off. This is a song basically just kind of looking into how the band was back then, and basically saying, you know, at some point, some good things come to an end, even when you don't want them to, but this is also the beginning of something new for everybody involved. It's almost kind of just a bittersweet ending, because now, you know, as good as this album was, you start to realize once it's over, oh, this is it. We're not getting anything from Sum 41 ever again, you know, and it's very sad because I love this band. I grew up with this band. They were a lot of fun. I mean, ever since I heard Fat Lip, I mean, instantly attached. But, you know, once I got more into their catalog and listened to, you know, albums like Does This Look Infected and Chuck, I got more and more attached in knowing that this is going to be it. It kind of, you know, makes me a little bit emotional that a band that was part of so much of my childhood will no longer be around after this year. So the Hell Side gets a perfect 5 out of 5. It was so great and so good that I was just blown away by it. Meaning that overall, when you take the two ratings from each side, this album gets a 9 out of 10. It is definitely a triumphant finish for the band, and I just wish everyone in that band the best of luck moving forward, and I hope Derek Whibley the best of health, as he has had health issues over the years, which is one of the main reasons they're kind of, or at least he might kind of be settling down a little bit. I think he says he's not like fully retiring, but he's going to take it easy a little bit more, which he deserves. He's been through a lot, and, you know, I'm just glad that he gave it his all. Everybody gave it their all on this record, but Derek Whibley especially, when some places vocally I didn't think he could go, and just overall showed us why he is one of the most underrated frontmen in the rock genre. But that's just my opinions on this. You can tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this album? And until then, that's it for me. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you all in the next one.